Each of us are capable of experiencing the infinite, right in the context of your own life. It's a powerful teaching. It's a powerful teaching. And so sometimes we encounter someone who opens up and experiences that in their lives. So beyond the circumstances and conditions and experiences and the facts and the drama, we have such a person like that this morning in our midst. And her name is Mary Rice. And I've asked her, I've been so inspired by you, Mary, especially the last few months, and always, and especially the last few months, that I wanted the opportunity for others here to be inspired by you as well. So the introduction I'm going to give is, here's Mary Rice.
The transcendent.
Thank you, dear husband.
Okay, let me get settled. It's going to take a minute. This rolls. And is this okay? Good. Good. Okay, I need my glasses. I'm ready for takeoff. Okay, I just want to, soak in the, just soak in the love and the support. I was up here once before when I was becoming a new member. And I said, wow, it feels really good up here. And Kevin immediately grabbed the microphone away from me like I was going to go on and on. This time I get to go on and on. Except I do have to stop at a certain point. So, wow. So let me give you a little background. Who am I? Well, who do I appear to be? What's my history? Yeah, I grew up in Indiana, the daughter of a Presbyterian minister. So I became a spiritual seeker very early on. And the church became just a little too small for me by the time I was in my teens, and I wanted more. And thought about seminary, but ended up becoming a therapist instead. And that's been a wonderful journey. But that spiritual seeking has never stopped. And I had long since given up on finding a community where I could really resonate with where they were coming from. And 4 years or so ago, Wendy invited me here. It's just like, wow, it does exist. I just love this community, the diversity and the depth and the spaciousness of the opportunity for growth has been such a blessing in my life. But that's not why I'm here. My more recent story is that on December 6th, my doctor called from a blood test and said, Mary, get to the ER immediately. I was seeing clients, and I said, well, it's kind of awkward, but okay. And within an hour or two, I had the ER doc in there with tears in his eyes, saying, Mary, we found an inoperable mass. Inoperable because it was twisted around the portal vein that you can't mess around with. And my first thought was, well, this has to be somebody else because I'm always healthy. And then it was, wow, that's amazing. This is going to be part of my journey. I wouldn't have guessed this in a million years. And then 2 words came up from the presence process, which I've done repeatedly, five times, and it takes you very, very deep. It's 10 weeks each time. And those 2 words were, I guess this is valid and required. Because it's about learning that everything that happens in our life has purpose. And so I felt that sense of, okay, this is valid and required. And I felt this amazing presence of grace. It's really, I get that word now. Because it wasn't like I was making anything happen, it just happened. Where I felt enormous peace, enormous love, and absolute surrender. And later I thought about it, and oh my gosh, that's what I've been meditating and praying for most of my life. It was peace without any fear. I couldn't find any fear. And just limitless love and real surrender to spirit instead of trying to be in control of everything. And here it was. And it really felt like, wow, little price to pay. You know, if this is what it took to get me here, what a gift. And then later thinking about, wow, well, this is really interesting that this is happening to me, because it has absolutely shocked all of my family and friends, because I literally am one of those people who just doesn't get sick. I don't even get the flu or colds. So of all the people, for me to immediately have this terminal illness, and I know that I'm whole and perfect, and we all are, and it's all in the oneness. And this is happening too. You know, we have to hold them both together. And then another reason I thought, well, maybe this can have impact on the whole. That death is not a scary thing. That death is inseparable from life. And the more we can embrace that death is a part of it, you know, every single one of us, even Emma Curtis Hopkins, who talked about no death, died. You know, and I see it as an absolute gift. Who would want to live forever in this particular reality? So, yeah, we can argue on the timing, but yeah, my husband doesn't like the timing at all. But it's an important part of life. It's a part of life that we don't want to talk about, we don't want to deal with. I worked as a bereavement counselor at a hospice for 3 years and heard all the horror stories of people who would just be avoided because people didn't know what to say to them, so they just wouldn't be around. And I have to get up a minute because on my birthday, I was shopping with my daughters and my sister to buy things for them. And we were in Old Town, and I found this, and I said, okay, I have to have this. Of course, this wasn't made in the US. This is Mexican. Mexicans have a much better relationship with death. Their Day of the Dead and all those other things. And the good deal was it was 50% off because nobody wanted to buy it. Who wants to carry a skeleton on their back? And yet the Buddhists talk about that all the time. You know, live as if death is right here on your shoulder. Because we're so good at putting things off. Well, you know, I'll get to it. And so another gift of this is being right here, right now. And the only thing I really know is that in this moment, life is absolutely amazing. And the future is a total question mark, not just for me, for all of us. You know, and I'm not the only person in this room dying. We all are. So as we realize that death is right here on our shoulder, you know, that can get our attention. Wow, maybe I need to pay attention a little more to each moment. So Kevin wanted, you know, I said, well, you know, I'm not doing anything. This is all grace. And he said, well, yeah, but you've kind of gotten yourself ready for this your whole life. So what have you done? What could you share with people that you've done in your own life that you think might have helped you get to this place of surrender and peace? So the first point I'd like to make is having a relationship with your body. The body is where we feel. It's where we experience. You know, the head is really not a safe place to hang out. I don't recommend it. I spent many, many years there. And so realizing that the deeper we feel in our bodies, the deeper we will experience life. And also have an experience with your body just so you kind of know how to work with it and what you need. You know, at the beginning, when my body wasn't sure how it was going to process food now, I would get very uncomfortable after I ate. And because I knew my body, I could get down on the floor and roll around and do some yoga and open up when it wanted to close up. And it made a huge difference, and still does, in my level of comfort. So don't ignore the body. It's our vehicle while we're here. And the better relationship we have with it, the better everything's going to be. The second thing is having a relationship with yourself. And I thought I had a good relationship with myself. I thought I had good self-esteem. And there are always layers. I've been working on myself my whole life, and wow, it's amazing how many layers there are. Everyone who's going through the presence process is finding, oh yeah, there are lots of layers there. So finding those hidden places that we have ignored, avoided, pushed away, places where we don't accept ourselves, places where we do judge ourselves and criticize ourselves. Often very young parts of ourselves that we've long since forgotten and that are so waiting for the love and attention they haven't gotten from us. And so that going deeper and deeper into my own love and acceptance of me has been an amazing journey and has gotten me what I've always longed for, and that is more intimacy with others, with the natural world, with Spirit, God, and that's the key. The deeper I could be with me, the deeper and more intimate I could be with my life. So that is incredibly important in me being. Before I get to this favorite reading I have, one thing that I noticed is that probably my greatest gift that I've had to offer during my life is something that I have totally taken for granted, that I didn't do anything to get. I was just born this way. And I think that's probably true of most of us. I'm a connector. I easily connect to people, and I love connecting people to each other. I just thought everybody did that, and that it was just a natural thing. And so, kind of discounted it and took it for granted. And then as I was a therapist, I found out, wow, there are lots of people who don't know how to connect. And I think that's what we do. I think these God-given gifts that we have, because they're so natural, we discount them, make them less important, take them for granted. And so I would invite you to think about, okay, what in you just comes naturally that other people seem to appreciate, that maybe you could acknowledge and appreciate more about yourself? If you look back over your life, what are the qualities in me that I think really contribute to others? And if you can't figure it out, then ask those closest to you, and they'll probably tell you right away what your qualities and gifts are. So another thing, as we get to know ourselves better, and we acknowledge and appreciate these qualities, we become more real, more authentic, which is really what we all want. And I just can't resist this short reading from The Velveteen Rabbit about being real. And I read this to Hillary and Ariana, my daughters, as they were growing up. And this is a discussion between two stuffed animals in a child's room. "What is real?" asked the Velveteen Rabbit one day. "Does it mean having things that buzz inside you and a stick-out handle?" "Oh, real isn't how you are made," said the Skin Horse. "It's a thing that happens to you when someone loves you for a long, long time. Not just to play with, but really loves you. Then you become real." "Does it hurt?" asked the rabbit. "Sometimes," said the Skin Horse, for he was always truthful. "When you are real, you don't mind being hurt." "Does it happen all at once, like being wound up?" he asks, "or bit by bit?" "It doesn't happen all at once," said the Skin Horse. "You become. It takes a long time. That's why it doesn't often happen to people who break easily, or have sharp edges, or who have to be carefully kept. Generally, by the time you are real, most of your hair has been loved off, and your eyes drop out, and you get loose in the joints and very shabby. But these things don't matter at all, because once you are real, you can't be ugly, except to people who don't understand. Once you are real, you can't become unreal again. It lasts forever. So the next thing I would suggest is something that we're all working on, because I know this is a very conscious community, and that is being more present and more accepting of what is in this moment. And wow, this is a lifetime's work. Constantly remembering this moment matters. And I must say, since December 6th, it's been easier than it's ever been to appreciate this moment and to just, luxuriate in it. Oh, that hot water coming out of the shower. Oh, what could be better? Each moment is just so wonderful, and yet our mind just loves to take us out of it. Michael Brown says, when we spend our time chasing one experience as we flee another, what we're doing is bouncing off the walls of a self-created perceptual prison. And that's part of why you need to love yourself, because as we're learning to become more present and in the moment, we need to do it gently and just remind ourselves, okay, right here, right now, you can be here. You don't have to beat yourself up for the fact that you've been making stories up in your head the last hour. Just be here now. So one of my favorite enlightened beings from my perspective, Kip Masry, says your suffering is not because you feel lonely or you feel sad, worthless, or unsuccessful. You suffer because you avoid this moment. You refuse to accept your experience in this moment and therefore resist it. The mind is always interested in changing this moment. And the self-help industry's made millions telling you how you can be different than you are, how you can be better. As though there's something wrong with you, as though you happen to be a factory second. God hiccuped, and now here you are, stuck in experiencing something that isn't right. But there is no hiccup. You are as you are. Your experience is as it is. And the only way to contentment is to be present in this. The key to happiness is to be alive in this moment, whether you just won the lottery or you just got a paper cut. And then one of my best teachers, Byron Katie, addresses death in terms of this. Until we know that death is as good as life and that it always comes at just the right time, we're going to take on the role of God without the awareness of God. And it's always going to hurt. Whenever you mentally oppose what is, you're going to experience sadness and apparent separation. Without the story of life and death, there's just love. Separation from the oneness is always an illusion. And I feel more clearly than ever that whole meaning thing that our minds just keep asking, what does it mean and what is all this about? We're here to experience love. I'm real clear about that. Everything else is just kind of secondary in drama and supporting us getting there to where we can experience more love. Another important part is learning to live with paradox, learning to hold both sides of the equation, like life, death. We love to talk and think about life, and can we have more of a relationship with our death? And maybe it is safe, maybe it is okay to die, and just kind of cultivate that relationship. Giving, receiving, is, they're two sides of the same coin. They are inseparable. And what's also inseparable is love and grief. There is no way to love without having grief. And so if we can accept that, if we can know that any moment that someone we love we can feel them pulling away, or we're pushing them away because we're afraid of getting hurt, any moment that happens, there's some grief at some level. And so we might as well just surrender to the fact that grief is a part of love, and you cannot separate the two. I had a wonderful gathering at Bell and Ken's house about 3 weeks ago with dear, dear friends, and we spent the whole weekend together just being very deep and profound and loving and vulnerable, and it was wonderful. And I was so touched by my friend's ability to be in the joy and love of all the things we've experienced together, the adventures, the deep sharing, right together with that sadness. And I can't imagine doing that without you. And it wasn't an either or. It was a yeah, and here they both are. And the more we can stay in that balance of the equation, the more life will be rich, and we won't get lost in one side or the other, because it's just a dualistic world. There are always going to be two sides, and our preferences really get us into trouble. So when we're out of balance, there's probably another side of the equation that we need to bring in more. As I've reminded my husband many times when he's grieving, I say, "Hello, I'm here right now." So, no question, there isn't a place that God isn't. That's what I came to when I did a vision quest a number of years ago. And you just sit yourself on the earth, out in nature, far away, for hours and hours and hours. I did white girl's version of a Vision Quest. You go out in the morning and you spend all night and you come in the next day at dusk. It's a long time to just sit with yourself in nature. And what I got from that, the way it came to me was not God is everywhere. It was there is nowhere that spirit isn't. In that quiet, I could just feel spirit in the grass, in an ant, in the trees were amazing. They totally came alive. And the sky, the curve of the hills, everything was spirit. And so I know that to be true. And I know that nothing's outside of spirit. Cancer isn't outside of spirit. Pain is not outside of spirit. You know, it's all a part of it. And so the more we can embrace all parts, the more we can relax into this amazing experience of life. And I don't know an easy answer of how to get our heads to quiet down and allow us to be here, but I do know that when I am dropped in to my heart and I experience the love that is, and I experience spirit that is everywhere, that my life is saturated with meaning, and that absolutely nothing is missing. It's like, what could there possibly be that isn't right here, right now, in this moment? And that's the place for us to go when our minds are asking a bunch of questions. We know we're in trouble. We know we better drop into our hearts and be with the love that's there and with the grace that's there. And so I invite you to just get relaxed and get ready for meditation in your chairs right now. And just take a few nice deep breaths. Kevin always reminds us, which is so helpful. We need to remind ourselves that all the time. It brings us back into our hearts, into our bodies. And I invite you to just begin asking your heart, what part of yourself or your life you aren't fully accepting? What feels like it should be other than it is? Maybe it's something you did that you haven't forgiven yourself for, something that someone else did. What parts of you are hungry for more love and attention? Is there something that you're resentful about happening in your life or in the world? I invite you to just breathe and open your heart and just imagine the possibility that from the place of the divine, it's all grace. A reading from St. John of the Cross, 16th century Christian mystic and poet. What is grace? What is grace, I asked God, and he said, all that happens. Then he added when I looked perplexed, could not lovers say that every moment in their beloved's arms was grace? Existence is my arms. Though I well understand how one can turn away from me until the heart has wisdom.
Are we almost there? How much longer till I'm safe in bed at home? How much money do I owe for what I owe? How much left to pay? Pay attention. Pay attention. This is it, more or less. And who would ever guess this is the best of times? This is the worst of times, and it's passing. Pay attention. Is it over yet? How much longer does the hidden road go on? How much farther till I cross the Rubicon? How much toll to pay? Pay attention. Pay attention. This is it, more or less. And who would ever guess this is the best of times? This is the worst of times, and it's passing. Pay attention. This isn't where I thought I'd be. I ignored my own design. But if you're here, if you're with me, I like it fine. I like it fine. Someone tells a joke, someone marries, someone else is giving birth. Someone's praying, someone's buried in the earth. All of us will pay attention. Pay attention. This is it, more or less. And who would ever guess this is the best of times? This is the worst of times, and it's passing. Pay attention.
You may be seated, except for you, Jim. I want to introduce Jim, for those of you who may not know. This is Jim Rice, the other half. let's acknowledge Mary Rice.